All right, we're going to be doing our 2023 NFL Draft wide receiver rankings. A lot of talent at the wide receiver position in this draft, like it's been for the past couple years or so. A lot of these coaches have gotten very good at developing wide receivers into productive players. So we've seen a lot of good wide receivers coming out of college.
Starting off my wide receiver one, I have JSN out of Ohio State. And I've watched him this past year. He didn't play much, but when he played and the year before that, he had some amazing highlights. Like, this is one of the craziest catches I've ever seen, getting his foot in, just great concentration from him there. He's a great route runner. I think that's his best aspect of his game, is being able to get open and man coverage with his elite route running. My problem with him is that he might be a pure slot in the NFL, which some teams might like if they need a slot receiver, but team that's looking for an outside receiver, they might not look for him. They may look for a bigger, like another big bodied receiver. But I think mostly at Ohio State, he was in the slot, even though he was bigger. I just think he fits better in this slot. His breakaway speed is nothing spectacular, which is also why I think he played in this slot. But I think his route running just sets him apart from everyone else in the class, which is why he's my wide receiver one.
Yeah, and I think a lot of him playing in the slot the year before was because Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson were on the outsides, and both of those guys have been super successful in the league. I think Jackson Smith has a very similar game to Chris Olave, both really good route runners, solid hands. I would say a comp for JSN would be what I say is Deontay Johnson with slightly better athleticism is his type of potential, like a Keenan Allen type player, a guy that's going to get open. And he's a 1,000-yard receiver, but never the best receiver in the NFL type potential, but always top 15, top 10 type receiver.
With solid production from the slot each year.
Yeah, he's also my number one in this year's draft.
All right. My wide receiver two I have is Jordan Addison. His college production has just been there. He's a former Biletnikoff winner at Pittsburgh after transferring to USC. He was Caleb Williams' favorite target at USC, which won the Heisman. He's a great route runner. Yeah, he can really hurt you on any part of the field. Great change of direction. He's very agile and elusive. May not have the best breakaway speed, but he's able to change direction very easily and be elusive. And his after the catch is great. I'd like to see him put on some weight. He's weighing in at, I believe, at 174, which is a little light, but there's likes of Devontae Smith in the league that came in skinny and he's been fine in the NFL. He's a Heisman winner. I just think that could potentially elevate him to the next level, because at that way you could struggle against lanky receivers that off the press. And I think that's one in the bigger corners off the press, I think could give him some issues. But once he gets off the press, I think he'll be able to get open and be a solid receiver.
Yeah, he's like JSN, another really good route runner. And the reason those guys aren't on the next level is just purely their athleticism, because they both have great hands and great route running. It's just more of a question of what type of athletes are they. Jordan Addison is, I think, smaller than JSN, but he almost seems like he could play outside more.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's just because he's a better route runner, he's better at creating space. But he's had great production. That's where you can look. He's been healthy, been productive, and that's kind of what separates him in this class. He was also my number two. And when you look at what he did at Pitt with Kenny Pickett, great production. Like you said, he won the award, and then go to USC and then just also produce as well and really match up with Caleb Williams and have a great season for USC.
And to be the Heisman's favorite target is a good thing, that he can rely on you to get open, make tough catches and coverage. I think that's one thing that also puts him up there pretty high, is that he could be trusted in that offense, which I think he'll be able to be trusted in the NFL offense as well. And then at my wide receiver three, I have Zay Flowers out of Boston College. I've seen him on at least on my draft board, he's gone up the rankings the past couple weeks. His route running is spectacular. I've seen multiple times where he just on these zig routes like here against, I believe that's Clemson, just getting open. One thing that concerns me with him is he has really small arms. I believe they're 29-inch arms. And the best receiver last year in the NFL that produced with arms under 30 inches was Greg Dortch out of Arizona. So I think that's a potential concern for him is his short arms, but I think his route running makes up for that. Him being able to get open. It's just tough getting him the ball in tight coverage with such small arms. But even there, you can see he can go up and make a catch here and there. But that's one thing that you can't really fix. But I think his route running will compensate that.
Yeah, he's also my number 3 wide receiver. And when you, again, all of these guys are great route runners. And I think that's something that we've been seeing more often out of college. A lot of these wide receivers are already way higher developed when it comes to running routes than what we've seen in the past. And Zay Flowers is no different. When you look at his tape, you can see he gets open consistently. The biggest concern is just the level of competition. When you look at some of the teams he's playing against, he's not really playing many teams in the SEC or the Big Ten. So you're kind of unsure whether he can do that against a higher level of talent. But what he did for Boston College, the way he was able to get open and the catches that he makes, it really shows a lot. The way I'd compare him to Kadarius Toney. That's who he reminds me of, just a smaller guy, great route runner. And I think he's gonna have a super high potential in the NFL. I saw some Antonio Brown comparisons. I don't think he's going to be that good, but you see him going and throwing with Patrick Mahomes, and the Chiefs see something in him. That tells you a lot about the player.
Yeah, I think if the Chiefs snagged him at the end of the first, which I think would be a steal for them at that pick, I think he could be an elite receiver in that offense that could instantly turn into Pat Mahomes. Well, second target behind Kelsey, but number 1 receiver target over there in KC.
Yeah, and then when you look at the receivers they bring in, they get Kadarius Toney, Sky Moore, and then Zay Flowers. It seems like they're really going towards a smaller type wide receiver.
And my wide receiver 4, I have this guy's been kind of moving all over the boards lately, in my opinion, is Quentin Johnson. He's great size coming out of TCU, he's great explosiveness. He runs deep routes very well. The one concern with him is needs to work on his physicality. Going up and make catches on people is one thing that he hasn't been able to do as well as some would hope out of TCU, which I think is a concern. But I think his speed and his frame is what puts him up here in the top 5. I just think he needs to work on getting up there and getting those contested catches more at his height. I believe is 6'4".
Yeah, I don't have him in my top 5, but I could definitely see why he would be in the top 5. And when I was talking about JSN, I said I couldn't see him being the best receiver in the league. I could see him being top 15, top 10, but Quentin Johnson's someone with the height and speed to be a top 5 receiver in the league if he pans out. I could see him falling anywhere between, on the low, Brashad Perryman, and on the high, like Andre Johnson, just a big receiver that can go up as fast and get the football. Maybe the more realistic comp, though, could be Chase Claypool.
Okay. Yeah, I like that combo. Big bodied receiver coming out of college. Great speed. He's great after the catch, too. He can locate the ball well when it's in the air. I think he could do well for a team. If he gets on the right team, the right system, I think he could do well.
Yeah, I guess the biggest concern would be how many routes he can run. As a big receiver, you see him almost exclusively running just the vertical routes. Right there was a curl. I don't know if you're going to see many slant and goes or many kind of like detailed comeback routes where he's going to have to create a lot of separation. I think most of his game is just going to be using his size and speed to get open.
Yeah, I think he'll be a solid deep threat in the NFL. I think he is great at getting open on those deep routes, maybe those deep posts, those streaks. He has great breakaway speed. We just look to up his physicality once he gets to the NFL.
Yeah, and that's another thing that was pretty much the main problem with Chase Claypool as a big receiver. You'd almost want him to go up and be more aggressive at the point of attack, and for some reason he wasn't really able to do it. And I don't know why I'm just now noticing this, but Quinn Johnson looks like he has super skinny legs. And
Yeah,
I mean, I think he probably has like high calf insertions, but just it's something you see in like really good athletes. Like he almost looks like he should be a sprinter.
yeah, he does have he does have some small legs. Yeah, great frame, a great build for a potential NFL receiver. I think a team looking for him, looking for a big bodied receiver might snag him as early as the first round.
I could also see him falling into the late second.
Yeah, with how deep this receiver class is, it's really hard to tell. It's gonna be hard to tell when some of these receivers are gonna get picked. I think Baltimore could take one. I think Green Bay could take one. It's gonna be hard to see what teams value these receivers the most and whether it be a first round or second round pick.
Yeah.
You say you didn't have him on your list. Who do you have at your wide receiver for?
Yeah, I did not have him. My wide receiver four was Josh Downs, who I had at number four. He played at UNC. He played with Drake May. So he was playing with a guy who's a potential. I think some people are saying he's a potential first overall pick next year. So he has had great quarterback play, but what you look at when you see him, I mean, he's a guy that's going to make great catches. He's going to get open. He has great athleticism too. You can see him outrunning the defense right there. He again another one of these guys, great route runners, great at hands, and whether you can put some of his success on playing with such a skilled quarterback is understandable, but I think he's still a great playmaker, and I would say he's like the Amon-Ra St. Brown of this year's draft, a guy that is really talented and had good production when he was in college, but for some reason could fall a little bit in the draft, but still end up being one of the better receivers in the draft.
And yeah, like we've mentioned with a lot of these receivers, he's a great route runner. I think he's one of the best route running classes you've seen in a while. All these receivers, I think, have elite route running potential in the NFL. He also has great hands, doesn't drop the ball a lot, which I think is a big factor when teams look for receivers if they can actually catch the football and hold on to it. A concern of his that I noticed is I mean, he didn't run too slow at the combine. We probably would have liked to see a little faster at since he's I believe 5'10". Not the biggest receiver, but I think his route running and his spectacular hands make up for his size, which I think is why he'll be a first or second round pick in this year's draft.
Yeah, and I think he has I think what they say he has better game speed. He plays faster.
Yeah, and from these highlights, it definitely looks like he's faster than what his 40 showed.
Yeah, you can see him outrunning some guys on the field. But again, I think that's who would remind me of like a Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Right.
And then number five, who's your number five?
Number five, we got a little bit of a wild card. I got Jonathan Mingo out of Ole Miss. And I was watching his highlights earlier, and I just get glimpses of AJ Brown when he was at Ole Miss. He's a athletic, big-bodied receiver. He's great at finding the soft spots and zones. Great at recognizing, good at reading the defense. Can see where the zone's at, what coverage they're in. He's great at just sitting under those soft spots. One thing that he struggles with is getting open in man. But he can go up and make insane catches like that in man. He's just a big-bodied receiver with great hands. Really reminds me of when AJ Brown or even when DK Metcalf was there. He's very athletic. He can get open and looking for spots in that zone coverage. Just I want to see him be able to separate himself in man coverage, maybe work on his route running. And another thing, he didn't have a lot of college production as much as the other two receivers from Ole Miss did, but obviously production doesn't show all of it. I think if you have the right traits and you go to the right team, you'd be a solid NFL starter one day.
Yeah, I think they definitely gave him the AJ Brown shoulder pads. I mean, you can see it in the way how wide his shoulders are. He looks like he has that build. He looks like a running back at wide receiver, almost like the same thing with AJ Brown or Debo Samuel type build, where they're just super stout at the wide receiver position. They're great after the catch. So I have at my number 5 then Tennessee wide receiver Jalen Hyatt. When you look at his tape, the biggest thing with him is just his speed. The way he's able to outrun people and just really explode against the SEC talent that they were playing against. I mean, he made a lot of really good defenses look foolish with how fast he is. You can see him outrunning a lot of teams. Another concern with him is just kind of his size. He's skinny. He reminds me of Devontae Smith size wise, speed wise. I know he's not quite as fast, but with what he does as a deep threat and with his speed, he's almost like a Deshaun Jackson type. He's pretty much he's going to be a deep threat, or you're going to give him the ball like this in a screen and let him try to outrun everybody else. He has elite speed down the field. You can see sending it deep across the middle, and he's just going to outrun people. He's got elite speed at the wide receiver position. He has solid size, height wise, not the strongest though when it comes to his weight, but you can see here just outrunning good defenses.
And yeah, like you said, one thing that sticks out to me on his tape is game speed. I don't know how well he ran at the 40, but he looks very quick on tape, outrunning a lot of defenders. He's a great deep threat as well. I think that's what like you said, I think that'll be one of the main things he is in the NFL is a solid deep threat for the wherever team he goes to. He's great at tracking the ball. He's great. He's a great route runner as well. So I think getting open on those deep post routes or any of those deep routes, I think he'll be a weapon for any team that drafts him.
Yeah, he ran a 4.4 flat. So I mean, not in the 4.3s, but that's about as close as you can get. And you can just see the way he just beats coverage straight up. I think he might struggle in press just because of his how much he weighs, but if he can make sure he gets a good release, he's just going to be able to outrun people even at the NFL level.
And like you said, he played against good competition. He's not playing against he's not playing against any scrubs. He's playing against potential round 1 draft picks in the future. And I think that shows that he can play up to that level of competition in the NFL.
Yeah, and he's another guy who had good quarterback play at college. So you also wonder if maybe some of the success came from having good quarterback play or if it's just him. But I think they had a great connection at Tennessee, and I think it really helped out both of their draft stocks.
Yep.
So that was the wide receiver rankings we had. My rankings went Jackson Smith and Jigba, Jordan Addison, Zay Flowers, Josh Downs, and then Jalen Hyatt 5th.
And then mine went JSN 1, Jordan Addison 2, Zay Flowers 3, Quentin Johnson 4, and then Jonathan Mingo 5.
All right, solid rankings.
Yep.
First 3 were the same, and then there was some variation, but I think overall it's a strong draft class.
Very deep wide receiver class.
Yep. All right.